There was a guy who had to pass by my school every day to get to his own, and on the first day of class, I literally fell at his feet. I tripped over something, ended up sprawled in his lap, and he helped me up. It felt like love was in the air, and I was smitten from that moment. So, we formed a group of friends and started going out in a group. One day, I got the courage and told him I liked him. He didn't feel the same way, so I said okay, no hard feelings, and I moved on, dating other guys, but I couldn't get him out of my mind. We kept hanging out because he seemed to give me signals that he felt the same way. We traveled together in a group, and I felt such a deep connection with him. It always seemed like he was looking at me, and we saw each other a lot. However, he wasn't interested, and our conversations became a bit awkward. I asked his best friend about it, and he told everyone, calling me intense, but he continued to treat me well. Eventually, his best friend spilled everything, and I was mortified, thinking this would ruin our friendship. Though we stopped hanging out in groups, we started traveling more often. Once, I sat next to him, and we were listening to music when he leaned against me, and I thought, is this it? Do I still have a chance? During one of these trips, a man was selling things while we were near a pool. I wanted to dive in but held back, and then, trying to make an impression, I helped pick up trash. The man selling things said that those who picked up trash would find a boyfriend. I saw this as a sign from the universe. He then predicted that I would marry someone very close to me, who was hiding their feelings, and he even mentioned the name of the guy I liked. We were shocked and returned to our city, where nice things kept happening, but as far as I knew, he never liked me. I'm trying to get over him. He sometimes responds to my stories, which I like, but it's not enough. Applause. Eventually, I changed schools and met a new guy. There were 2 new guys at school, and guess what? They were brothers, and both of them started flirting with me. So, I got closer to one of them to the point where he asked me to be his girlfriend, and I happily agreed because I liked him a lot. We lasted about 6 months, which were not easy at all because he was always hanging out with friends that weren't good for him, and I always told him to be careful because I cared about him a lot. Obviously, my parents didn't let me date him for obvious reasons. Then, one day, a so-called friend of mine tells me that she saw him vaping, and I was like, why would he do that? It's totally unnecessary. But then rumors started that he wasn't doing well with me, which I faithfully believed wasn't true. We had many problems, but that old story came to a head, and I ended up breaking up with my boyfriend. He called me crying. I was still in love with him, so I cried too. He apologized, and we fixed things, you know, the typical stuff. And I forgave him and got back with him. Some time passed, and he went on a trip and told me he needed to confess something. Before the trip, he had been acting super weird and spending a lot of time with my former best friend, raising my suspicions of something more. And guess what? He had been cheating on me with my best friend, which was the truth. Also, one time, I don't know why, but our moms talked, and she told her, your daughter is the one who comes to the house and disgusts my son. Well, it goes without saying that wasn't true, but after that, I opened my eyes. And though it was late, it was better late than never, and I ended it and never spoke to him again. There was another guy who liked me, but I didn't feel the same way. However, I had the brilliant idea to tell him I liked him. So, I said, you know how Fernando has been bothering me a lot? What do you think if we pretend we're dating? That might stop him from bothering me. And he, being a good friend, said yes, of course, let's pretend we are dating. So, this other guy saw us hugging and holding hands, super close, and this valuable tactic did not work. Then, the guy started giving me gifts almost every day. Every day it was super intense. He brought flowers to school, and I'm not one of those old ladies who love making everything public. But he wanted everyone to know, and we were very private. Or at least the new topics were the desires of gossip. Then it reached a point where I got fed up because everyone was telling me that I should be with him. Like, he's a painter. Why don't you want him? I just can't force myself to feel something I don't feel. Okay, thanks. So, as I had enough, I went to him and said, you know what? I don't like you at all, not even a little bit. There's no chance. please leave me alone. I felt really bad, but it's also better to prevent than to fix things afterward. Then I went to the guy I actually liked, and finally, I was at peace, and he was like, "But I really liked being your fake boyfriend." And then I started to think that maybe he liked me because of what he said. But if not, you would have thought so, right? Then a month passes, and the guy texts me at night, saying he still likes me. But just when everything was going well, I find out I have a love named Yamila who told my best friend in production. Like, well, my boyfriend is Christ. Like, what kind of boyfriend do I have? But it scared me to ask my boyfriend or her about the rumor that she was pregnant because if it was true, friends would say it was my ex, the one who had impregnated her when he was still my boyfriend. But when she was already 7 months pregnant, I confronted her at her house to ask who the father was. That day when I went there, she wasn't home, so I asked her parents about who their daughter was pregnant by. And there I confirmed that the baby was indeed by my ex, who was my boyfriend at that time. Then the next day, I went to school and totally freaked out and told him, "Why are you doing this?" Then she, crying, told me it was true, but later he said, "Fernando," and I decided I'm not going to talk to him anymore. There was this guy I really liked, and he was about 2 years older than me. The older, the better, I thought. But I figured he would never notice me because I saw him as unattainable, an athlete on a pedestal to me. But hey, nothing ventured, nothing gained, so I started talking to him, and we began to become friends, all cool. But then, in the 6th grade, sadly, I never saw him again. 5 years passed. And then I found him on Instagram out of curiosity because I wanted to know what had happened to him. No sooner had I found him than he sent me a message after just a minute. He started talking to me really sweetly, and I was in fan mode, reveling in the moments and conversations. Unusually, he would stay in the conversation waiting for me to reply, showing that level of interest. But it was all just as friends, or so I thought. I had this feeling that he might have a girlfriend. Like a sixth sense, you know? But I hadn't confirmed it until then. So, as this feeling grew, I decided to check his profile, not sure why it hadn't occurred to me before. And again, those who seek shall find. I didn't just search. I found a photo with a girl. I'm like the FBI, man. We had never interacted with each other's accounts for a long time, no mutual likes, no comments, nothing. So I thought maybe they weren't together anymore. I don't know why he hadn't deleted that photo, because there was no resolution to cause it. A few weeks passed, and he posted a story with this girl, calling her my Princess Vargas. Obviously, I was like, what's going on? Because the guy was flirting with me, and when I saw that, I told the others not to continue the story. 2 days later, it was his birthday, and you know, they made a whole story out of it, a Bible event with the girl and me. So, as time went by, I became more skeptical about this guy. One day I went to an opera, and he said, "Invite me, I'm burning up," and I was like, no way, because I don't even know the 5 senses. And now he is. I didn't think he saw me that way because he didn't seem to have the 5 senses either. And that night, he told me he wanted us to sleep together, which I didn't respect. But the next day, I checked the profile of his supposed girlfriend, and guess what? They were no longer following each other. And that's when it all started, because we began to. It was super intense. So one day we were on the phone, and he said, "What if we see each other today?" And I agreed, and he came to my house. He told me he didn't want to date seriously, just to hang out like before. I was so in love. I just said okay. But then his physical and manipulative side started showing. Love blinds you, and we saw each other a lot and did a lot together until I don't know what happened, we drifted apart. I had a feeling that he had gone back to his ex, and indeed, the never wrong gut feeling was right. I saw they were following each other again on Instagram, so I withdrew from his life. I stopped talking to him without giving explanations. I didn't care, but after a while, he didn't ask or look for me. Then I started seeing that they were commenting on each other's photos, confirming that they were indeed back together. A week later, this shameless guy sends me a message because, as we know, they all come back when they no longer have someone else. but I didn't open his message, and I never will because there's something called dignity, and besides, I am proud. I had already moved on. He can stay where he's truly happy. I am happy as I am. Follow me on Instagram, and also subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks. One day, a guy sends me a message on Instagram, which I found super random. 2 weeks later, I see a story from the idiot, and that's when he tells me he has a girlfriend, but it was a consensual breakup. I liked the guy and thought, you and I aren't friends, so I responded to his story, and he replied, and we started talking really well. I started flirting with him, and I was in love until one day I thought enough, this isn't right. What if one day someone does it to me? I messaged him saying, you know what? No, it's better we stay friends. After making a cut for autonomy, we decided to keep it strictly platonic, but it wasn't even a week before they broke up. The universe was listening, and then he talked to me, and I told no one why they broke up. It turns out he had talked to his ex, and you know how things went, they saw each other and ended it. But the very next day, I wake up totally normal, just a casual day, and then they are deleted. He sent me a ton of messages. The guy I had been seeing messaged me saying, hey, what happened? And I said, tell me the truth. And my son said, look, Lavaro never leaves his cell phone, but once I took it, and he had a beautiful game with you, and I tell you the truth, we talked, and I still liked him, but I decided to distance myself because it wasn't right. And besides, I'm going to say that you are an option. I don't know if I told you why you ended things, and I felt bad because it seemed like he broke up with her for me, but at the same time, I liked Lavaro too much. So, I thought we were just friends, but hey, Lavaro and I started going out, and you know, a year passes, and I'm totally in love with this guy, but it made me an example of how things go south, and to this day we still see each other. Obviously, if I get depressed, it's clear, and right now, they are talking again. It's most likely that he'll come back around, and this time to Carmen, and it was during vacation, and my cousins were staying at my house. For this, she has a boyfriend, and her boyfriend had a best friend. Then, her best friend kept telling my cousin's boyfriend that he wants no one but her, and I was seen as something great, but yes. But this guy didn't know I existed. Then, my cousin's boyfriend tells my cousin, look, he wants a girlfriend, and my cousin jokes a lot about it and sends him my photo to show to his best friend. Then his best friend thinks I'm pretty, so let's talk about him and me during those 4 days in Orlando. And this month, he asked me to be his girlfriend, and what more? There were many times when I felt I was giving everything to the relationship, and he was giving me nothing. I always replied super fast, but he would take hours to reply, even days. That week, he said to me once, I feel like this isn't working, and I was like, of course it's not working because you can't take care of yourself. And I stayed with him until we broke up. You can fall in love and sell if I came because, yes, I liked him, I cared about him, I loved him, and then the fool dared to tell me, the truth is, you never really liked me. I just wanted to make my ex jealous, and now you're the only option, okay? Why did he tell me that? Or did he think less of me now that it was better? And then, besides, my son also has it. And I felt like Napoleon was like many things to come back. Then this guy writes to my best friend from bed and says he likes me, and my best friend said to me, I like the traitor happening with the year, and my cousin writes to me, and we talk. I unblock him, and he writes asking me for forgiveness as a service, and how what he told me was a lie. I never cheated on you. My sense of smell died, and I was like, what do the guys have to do with it? Dying with me being cheated on and all the lies is what he wanted was to try again with both of us. But obviously, I didn't want to because he hurt me a lot and I stopped talking to him. Then my cousin started to like me, and I told him many and my son dominated, and I also stopped talking to him. Applause.